Ladies and gentlemen, what's going on? My name is Denonu, the man with the biggest and the most blackest privilege on YouTube. And with this video here, we're going to be talking about basically, what are they calling it now? The DCU. It's no longer the DCEU. And basically what I think they, messed up, what they did wrong. And if, I was the big guy with the big paycheck, in charge. I'm just gonna basically explain some fixes that I think would work for them better in the long run. Maybe not so better in the short run. But I know I usually bag on DC every time I talk about them, but I mean it's one of those things where, yeah, I'm hard on them, but it comes from the heart, so because I want to see them do just as good as Marvel, I mean, honestly. But I think their biggest problem, it's probably the writing, I would say. It's the writing, it's the characters, and basically they need to just, like, their biggest problem is they need a plan. Honestly, I know that's easy to say, but they need one specific plan, and then they need to stop meddling with their directors and with their movies. I mean, that's the biggest thing. I would say, honestly, once they come up with, let's say, a plan, whatever it is they want to do, whether that's Darkseid, Brainiac, whoever the end bad guy is with, the DCU. It's one of those things where it's like, okay, you have an overall plan. And I'm not saying you got to do things like Marvel. I mean, I'm not doing that. If you want to be different, fine. But being different does not be like, you know what, fuck it, we're just gonna do something that costs billions of dollars, and we're not gonna have a plan. Fuck that. Like, no, that's called being stupid, YouTube. That's called being stupid. But you have to have a plan set in place. Like, what are you planning to do with these characters? And not only that, you have to get your audience attached to your world and your said characters. So that's number two. You can't just come out with a movie and expect to make that Marvel money and then don't do what Marvel did. I'm not saying you have to do the same things, but if you come out with like a Superman movie, you have to get people attached to that Superman. If you come out with a Batman movie, you have to get people attached to that Batman. You have to get people to like the characters you're putting on screen if you want them to make money. That's just, the way it is. Just because they're, oh, here's Batman. Oh yeah, he's gonna make $1 billion just because he's on screen standing there because he's Batman. Like, no, you have to put Batman in some shit. You have to have a movie around, the characters. And that's what I think their second biggest problem is just they didn't do that. They gave you all of these new characters outside of, let's say, Superman, who had Man of Steel. They jumped you into this world and they didn't build shit. People say like, oh, their universe started with Man of Steel, but no, Man of Steel was a what's the word I'm looking for? A solo movie. For all intents and purposes, it didn't build on shit. It was one of those things where, like, it did what movies did, 10 years ago and everything like that. Yeah, it had a couple Easter eggs, like with the Bruce Wayne satellite and orbit and things like that, LexCorp or whatever. But it's like, okay, that's like expected in any comic book movie. They've been doing that for years. That's nothing new. But it didn't build on anything. And I know I said this before, in previous commentaries, but they should have started with what are they calling it? The Nolan trilogy of Batman movies. If they wanted to build into Justice League, start at the end of that. I know I've said this before, like I said years ago, actually, in the previous commentary, like, if they wanted to do this, he left it off on the perfect, way to kind of bring in Superman. Because of how they ended that movie. For those of you who don't know, if you've seen the shitty Bane Batman movie, basically he flies, what was it, a hydrogen bomb, nuclear bomb, out into the ocean. It blows up, and then everybody thinks he's dead until Alfred sees him at the end of the movie. And it's one of those things where they kind of leave it up to your own interpretation of like, well, if he's alive, he's there, it's Bruce Wayne. But if it's Alfred wishing he was there but he died type thing, you know, and they just didn't tell you, and that's where it ended. So you can have that happen, and then, you know, have him retire for a few years, you know, if you wanted. I mean, I think they messed up with making Ben Affleck the older Batman, because then you can't write future movies and, you know, keep the continuity going. I would have kept him younger. I would have him, let's say, retire for a couple years or whatever, you know, live that life with Catwoman, you know, do like they doing with the comic books with you know, with him marrying Catwoman now. I mean, you could bring her into, you know, his universe if that's what you wanted to do. You don't have to explain who Batman is, because if you've seen the Nolan movies, then you already know who Batman is. You already know his characters, his motivations, everything about his character. So number one, guess what? You don't need a new Batman movie. And it's a way of, let's say, distancing the Nolan trilogy. People always talk about like the Nolan trilogy. It was grounded. It was real. Like they tried to make it as realistic as they could, given, you know, the comic book concept. But the thing is, that could have been the whole basis of the intro to the DCU. You know, they could have came out there, the world was normal, and then guess what? Bam, Superman fucking shows up. You know, wrecks fucking Metropolis. So it's like, oh shit. You know, they could have ran with that ball, and then let's say you had Man of Steel kick off. At the end of the Batman movie, let's say, you know, because he was stabbed and everything, he was bleeding out, they could have had him pass out. And let's say before, you know, he dropped the bombs, or let's say he dropped the bombs and was flying back and he passed out. They could have had, like, you know, they could have showed him living at the end of the movie, whatever, and bam, end of Batman. When Man of Steel kicked off, I would have started the intro of like, let's say, have Bruce Wayne walking in the Batcave, going to the computer. And in his mind, like, he's alive, right? He's with Catwoman or whatever. And he's thinking about like, damn, how did I make it out? Because I should have died. And have that been like a mental thing where he just can't get over it. He can't just accept the fact and move on. And then he kind of, you know, does the whole detective thing. Let's say he remembers like a red streak or something like that. You know, somebody, let's say his thing crashed in the ocean and somebody came up there and pulled him out and threw him on a beach. You know, do something like that, and then have him remember, let's say, either, I mean, if you don't want to have Superman in costume, you could have, let's say, like him being Clark Kent with the manly, hairy, flaming chest that he had in Man of Steel. Let's say he remembered like his bright blue eyes or something like that. He remembered he was a white guy with blue eyes, and remembered, let's say, what his face looked like. And for like, ever since then, he's been trying to facial recognition this, you know, who this man is. And you could jump that right into Man of Steel of Clark Kent, because he was going around from place to place, saving people, not knowing if he wanted to be, you know, Superman or not. You could have rolled that right on into that, and then picked up with him, and then have Bruce Wayne trying to figure out where he's going from place to place, and have him be, you know, kind of be like Bill Bixby from The Incredible Hulk, where you have Bruce Wayne trying to find him, but he keeps moving from place to place and he can't find him, but he gets like, oh, we got to hit here, we got to hit here. You could show that at least for like 5 minutes with Batman, right? And then you jump into Superman, him doing that with Man of Steel, wrap that all up, and then that's when you can take Superman. I mean, granted, I wouldn't have made Man of Steel as dark, but I was somebody who was fine with Man of Steel, honestly. Because a lot of people, you know, would be like, oh, it has a lot of destruction in it. I'm like, well, they're Kryptonians. I mean, that's kind of what they do. I mean, you have Kryptonians in a world where they, you know, with no kryptonite. So, you know, like, they're gonna fuck up shit because there's no way to stop them. And you could have that been the argument of Man of Steel. I would have made Superman I mean, I'm not gonna say I would have made him just like Christopher Reeve, even though that's what everybody wants, but he needs to be the Captain America of the DCEU. I mean, point blank and period. He has to be that cornerstone of good Boy Scout mentality, always hopeful, always good. Don't worry, we got this. We can get through it. You know, we're gonna save the world. You can have him be that guy. And then you can have, you know, Batfleck be like, you know, why are you always the optimist? You know, you can't save everybody. You can have him be that guy, be the, you know, his antithesis, if I can actually talk today. But you can have him be his opposite, just like they are in the comic books. In the comic books, Superman is the bright, the hopeful guy, the guy that everybody looks up to, that is who people inspire to be when they think of heroism. And then you have Batman be like, oh yeah, it's good to think that way, but we live in a real world down here. So, he's the realist. He's the guy who's gonna do what he has to in order to save people, to get the job done. And yeah, it may not be as bright and politically correct as we want it to be, but that's the world. That's the world he deals with. And they can easily, you don't have to explain. It's not hard to make a movie about these characters. It would be different if like the comics didn't exist and let's say everybody was seeing these characters on screen for the first time and they was like, well, what kind of character do we want Superman to be? It's like, no, you already have the blueprint as far as what works. You already know what these characters are about. So it's like all you got to do is just adapt that into a plan that fits, how they make movies. That's all you have to do. It's not hard. You already have the blueprint. Hell, they have several. You have the comic books. You got the Justice League cartoon that came out years back, which was fucking perfect. You got the Batman and Robin and the Batman the animated series. Like you got animated shows that are dedicated to show you how these characters are great and why people like them. It's like all you had to do was throw in like prime example. I'm somebody, like I said, I've been watching comic book cartoons and reading comic books since like 87 or 88, right? Prime example. All you need to know about Batman. He's dark, he's broody, he stays in his cave, only really cares about crime fighting. You have to show Alfred in there. You have to have some kind of dynamic between him and Alfred to show that they care about each other. If you're pulling from the Batman the animated series, you don't make him, I'm rich. No jokes. Batman, all serious all the time, no jokes. Whenever somebody does make a joke, have him just stand there and just don't do nothing. He's not social. He's not going to be talking to you. He's not going to be doing none of that. Batman reminds me of like an old black father. That's who Batman is. He's that guy who's going to do what he has to get what he wants done. Not going to show a whole lot of emotion, except when you have that couple moments in your life where it's like when you see the emotion come through, and if it were me, I would toss in there, have Batman do that, oh wait, y'all can't see it because let me use my other hand. You have that Batman do this, do that punch where he's like, he's standing there and somebody come up and he's just like, blah. You have to show that at least once. But that's it. That's Batman, Batman to a T, and show how gritty Gotham is compared to Metropolis. That's it. With Superman, have him be, like I said, hopeful, brightful, pull all that Christopher Reeve cheesing for the camera, all of that stuff. And just go from there and just plan a story. But to get back on track, they didn't do that. They decided to let's just throw everybody in a movie and we're just gonna make that money. Fuck it. And everybody saw what happened. You got Black Panther. I know everybody's talking about it, but you got Black Panther outgrossing all of Justice League. And in 4 weeks? Shitted on it. Horribly. Shitted vibranium all over any thoughts of the DCU. And it just goes to show that if you do your characters right, people will go see your movies. They will pay that extra money to take their families and stuff there. You can't have everything dark and broody all the time. Granted, make that work for Batman. If you wanted to have somebody else do that, I would have it. You have to give it to those characters whose world that can kind of sort of fit in. Superman, no. Wonder Woman, half and half. You can make it work depending on where you're having the movie, where you're having the movie take place. If she's fighting gods, demons, and Themyscira and all that high fantasy type stuff, probably not. But if you're having her being the super powered Superwoman in like a city environment dealing with the military or something like that, some kind of social issue in there, then yes, you can do it like that. Hell, I'd bring in like other side people if you wanted to do that. Bring in people like The Question, Conspiracy Nut. or like do what they doing with the modern take on Green Arrow in the comic books. Make him the gritty, type character, kind of like how they spun out of the, the television show for that. There's other characters you can do that with, but you can't make everybody fit your archetype. Like another thing I think they did wrong is Aquaman. I know everybody liked them in Justice League, but that's not Aquaman. That's not the character that you're trying to portray, from the comics. I think Jason Momoa is fine. I mean, I don't think he's a great actor. I think he's Jason Momoa. Like everything he's, everything I've seen him in, which was what was it? Frontier, that werewolf movie he was in. Hell, I've been watching him since way back when he was with Stargate Atlantis, and he's just the same type of character in every role he plays. So he doesn't have a great acting range, so to speak. At least to me, he's not that believable character that you're gonna, be like, okay, I'm gonna see him being the soft, wimpy guy, and then I'm gonna see him being the dominant buff guy. That's not gonna happen with him. He's that really cool white guy that you go have a beer with, he's that guy all the time in every role he's in. But with him, I think that they kind of, in trying to make Aquaman badass, they kind of got away from how he looks. Like, maybe it's a thing with Hollywood. I know I said it before in a previous video, but I don't know why Hollywood doesn't like blonde hair anymore. Because like even Marvel does this. Like half of their characters have blonde hair, but in the comics, but in the movies they don't. They have like brown hair or like dirty blonde. I don't know why that is. Maybe that's like a film reason. Like maybe they can't do the coloring right with green screen or blue screen or something, but maybe that's why they do it. And if that's the case, okay, fine. I mean, that's the medium. But if they're just doing it just to change things up, nah. I mean, I'd rather have him be, we don't got to see him with the bright orange shirt and the green pants. I ain't saying that, but come on, you have to make him look like the character. As far as everybody else in the movie, they were pretty much done okay. Wonder Woman is, the only thing I have with Wonder Woman is, as a character, she's fucking great. I will say that. I just wish she was like a little bit more muscular. That's just me. I mean, she doesn't look like she can do, she doesn't look like a fighter to me, but that's only because I'm comparing her to like other women who, look the part, like bodybuilders and stuff like that. I don't say she got to look that buff, but if she was a little bit more muscular and a little bit more cut where you can see her striations and stuff like that, it would be a little bit more believable that she's a fighter to me, because she looks like a model swinging a sword around. That's what I picture her every time I see her. Like, you can see that she has muscle, yeah, but it's not, it's not Wonder Woman type muscle. So I'm not saying that you gotta go to one extreme, but she's fine. I mean, if there's anybody in the DCU that's working, it's her. Let me think. Cyborg. Where do I begin with him? I think the actor who played him was fine, but I think that's one of those roles where you can get any black guy to be him, but you just have to come out with a movie with him. Explain who he is, what his struggle is, and what he has to overcome before he gets to the Justice League. I mean, granted, I wouldn't even, if it were me, like I said, I wouldn't even have him in the movie, because that's somebody you introduce later on. Put him with the Teen Titans when you make a Teen Titans movie. But maybe they feel like, oh, we need an Iron Man for our Justice League, and that's why maybe they probably put him in there. Or they're probably pulling from the New 52 run of comic books, where he was introduced as like a founding member of the League. And hell, prime example, hold up. You have another blueprint that they could have used from. I just thought about something. The intro to the New 52, Darkseid fucking invades Earth and beats all of their asses. Do that. If you're gonna blow your load on anything, right? Let's just say fuck it, you're gonna do it, right? Why didn't they just do the New 52 intro run of when Darkseid came to Earth? Because that was like one of those, that was a Justice League movie. That was where like they were all separate. Batman was tracking them. That's pretty much what it was. Where Batman was tracking parademons and all this other shit, and then they came together. He met with Green Lantern, and then they came together and formed the League in that movie and just beat Darkseid. And then at the end, they was like, you know what? We need to form a Justice League. It's like, why not just do that? But prime example, they didn't. But Wonder Woman, like I said, she was done, perfectly. As perfect as you can get. I mean, it is what it is. The Flash, that's a toughie. Because I'm a fan of the TV show. if it were me, honestly, I think the best thing they could have did is make the Flash Wally West and not Barry Allen. And the only reason I say that is you have Barry Allen on the television show killing it right now. Well, maybe not this season and the last season, but when they were planning this, it was like, what, season 2 going into season 3, so they were killing it back then. But you have Barry Allen with that, right? Given how that show ends, well, before when I said this, they didn't introduce Wally West in there. I know they have him introduced in there, but you know, he's a black guy, whatever. But you could say this is a different universe or whatever. So, I mean, to not get any flack from anybody who watches Flash and likes that, because like I said, it's the same character, right? You don't want to have the same character be on 2 different mediums. I would say have your movie Flash with the Justice League be Wally West, just like the Justice League cartoon. In that, they didn't go into like, oh, the Flash was Barry Allen and then he passed the mantle down to Wally West, and you know, they didn't do all that. They just jumped in and was like, look, Wally West is the Flash right now. Yeah, you may have a couple flashbacks or whatever about Barry Allen, but for the most part, it's Wally West. You could have him just already being who he is. You know, him being a forensic, you know, person, him, you know, saving people, being the Flash, you know, flashback on how he got his abilities and what motivates him to be a superhero and all that. But he's a character who you don't have to really explain who he is. I would say if you're going to have a dynamic with him, I would say explain, given his power set, how he's different. You know, I would say that, because you can leave Barry Allen alone. Just don't do nothing with him. Focus on him being Wally West, and you, like I said, you can explain where his powers came from, you know, so that the main audience knows he got his powers and everything the same way Barry did. Jump into his motivations, why he wants to stop crime, because he's a forensic officer, what happened with his dad. You can explain all of that, and you can have really cool moments, kind of like how they do in a TV show and in the comic books, where he moves really fast and everybody else is standing still. You can show him doing that kind of daily stuff in his life, and you can, even if you wanted to, you can have him go into like one of his greatest fears is like he can't slow down, so everybody, you know, is frozen to him and he just has to live in eternity like that. You know, do something like that where you can take his power set and kind of flip it to where you can show his fears or certain other things that, let's say, aggravate other people. Let's say kind of like how Marvel in the comic books and the cartoons do with Pietro, and how him being like really fast, he's like super annoying and everything like that. People can't stand him because of how he is and why he's always fast all the time. And I remember, I think if I remember right, somebody asked him in one of the comic books, they was like, look, why are you always fast all the time? I mean, granted, that's your power set, but why are you like annoying, always fast, always wants to get things done? And he was like, look, imagine you being in a bank and you're taking money out of the bank and you got to wait through this long ass line. And then you finally get up there and you got somebody in front of you and they're just taking all day to get their job done. And he was like, that's life for him 24/7. Because to him, he has to slow down. So everybody that he interacts with, it's like he's waiting for them to speak or waiting for them to walk or waiting for them to do whatever it is that they do, because he's so fast. So he has to like dial it down to wait for him. So that's why he's always 110% and anxious and ready to get things moving. So it makes sense why he's like that. You know, you could throw something like that in with the Flash, and you know, I don't know how you would make that into like a personal struggle, but you can, you know, they could do something if they decided to, or just make a typical Flash movie. Just go in there, have him fight the bad guys. I mean, if it were me, I would prefer somebody other than the Rogues, because that dead horse has been beaten to death several lifetimes in the comic books and in the cartoon. So it's, I mean, no, not the cartoon, but in the television show. So it's one of those things where it's like, come on, you can have him just fight other people. I mean, I'm at this point where it's like, look, make up a bad guy for the movie. He don't gotta exist in any previous medium, but Hollywood is, you know, I guess they're afraid to do that. So Flash would be like the kind of weird movie. You might have to work on that a little bit, but everybody else, like I said, just make movies before you jump into Justice League. You know, it's not hard. You know, you can what else could it be? I'm trying to think of you have to have, like I said, they have to have a plan in place first. And once they have that plan set in stone, go to each one of their directors. Let's say go hire somebody for a movie and be like, look, this is your movie. Do a character piece. That's all we have to put in there. We got like 3 stipulations. 1, the movie has to be about character. It don't care who he fights, don't care whatever. The story is going to be written out. So you just make it character focused. 2, if the movies lead into each other, which I think, you have to show something, they have to have at least one Easter egg moment or one moment where it meets or connects with something else. And 3, don't meddle with the directors. Just let them do them. I mean, it's not hard. I mean, because then they can make isolated movies, have that one thing in them where it's like, oh, okay, they reference Metropolis or they reference Superman or whatever. And then they're just left alone to make the movie that they want to make. And they don't end up with, Justice League and having 2 different directors with Snyder and then Whedon. So it's one of those things where it's like, just let them do them. You know what I'm saying? And the thing that I don't get is, there's a thing in Hollywood where it's like, oh, the directors don't want to do what the studio wants them to do. Like, bitch, they're hiring you for a fucking job. Let me go to my boss at work and be like, you know what? I don't want to fix that computer today. I don't want to take calls. Be like, well, guess what? You're fucking fired because that's what we hired you to do. It's like, come on, just, I don't understand why that's a problem. Maybe they have contracts in place where they give them the freedom to do that, but that's fucking stupid. I mean, if you're hiring somebody to do a specific thing, then make them do those 3 things. Like, look, your movie has to have A, B, and C. Outside of those 3 things, do whatever you want and just have it be a character piece. That's it. It's not hard. I mean, and then he could do what he do, and then if people like it, if they like it, they like it. They don't, they don't. Then once the movie comes out, you assess the reception from that and be like, you know what, people said it was a little bit too dark, so for the next one, let's tone it back a little bit. Let's take it back a little bit. Do something like that, and then gauge your franchise as you're building it to to keep things moving and to make those changes. You don't have to go in there and be like, oh, well, the fans didn't like Man of Steel, so let's just make the whole movie about the hero saving people and making it, kind of like how in Batman v Superman, when they had the scene, it was like, oh, luckily this area is completely abandoned. Like really? This is like an urban city with millions of people, but yet just everybody's gone. You can just somehow know that. It's like, come on. Bullshit. It's like the only reason they put those scenes in there is because specifically in Man of Steel, when, Superman and Zod had their fight and the city got messed up, people were bitching about that. It was too destructive. And they didn't show the hero saving people. I mean, all you have to do is have a scene in there, kind of like how Marvel did with Age of Ultron, where you had the one scene, before the end of the ending fight scene where they fought Ultron. They showed a scene of them just trying to evacuate civilians and saving people. Or during that end fight scene, show them saving civilians and stuff. I mean, they had a little bit of that in Man of Steel, of him, trying to save people. I mean, so I don't understand where a lot of all that hate came from, When it comes to that movie, like I said, I thought it was pretty much okay. I actually liked how they did Superman. My biggest flaws was them changing Krypton and all of that extra stuff. But I'm like, hey, you're making Russell Crowe a badass, and he's a dead guy from, in the movie. So it's like, hey, it is what it is. I know I love that part in the movie where he was in the ship helping Lois, and he was, doing all. I gotta keep doing it with my left hand. But he was doing all of this, dropping and closing the stuff on him and stuff like that. So it's like, that was pretty cool. But like I said, outside of that, I mean, and going forward, I mean, they just gotta, I don't know, you two make good character pieces. They just gotta stop fucking up. That's number 1. Just stop fucking up. Just make a movie. Just make a series of movies. You don't gotta worry about, like, it seems to me like every time I hear something about, WB or the DCU, it's like, it hurts me because it's like they just don't know what they're doing. They don't. Like, and you can see it. Like, why is there a fucking Shazam movie and a Black Adam movie? That makes no fucking sense. I mean, Black Adam is his bad guy. Why isn't he in his movie? Like, Like that should be like the end fight scene. Like Black Adam should be the bad guy in Shazam, or maybe of Shazam 2. I mean, if they get it, if they make it that far, because Shazam's an old school character, so I'm assuming all of his bad guys suck, outside of probably Black Adam. But like Black Adam should be like your spinoff movie, like have him have a movie where he fights Shazam, and then because I like Black Adam as a character, I guess he's like the anti. I mean, I don't want to call him an anti-hero because he's not, but you can see where he's like on the road to becoming that if they wanted to take him there, even though he only cared about Kahndaq and everything. He wasn't, talking about saving people and everything, like that. He really didn't care of anything outside of his country like that. But, he's a spin-off movie. Spin off a movie with The Rock. I mean, that makes sense. Have him be the Rock in Shazam or whatever, or have The Rock be Shazam, or have The Rock be Black Adam in Shazam. Yeah, let me actually formulate my thoughts properly. And then once you do that, have him carry on into Black Adam and make a solo movie with him. I mean, it's The Rock. Why not? That alone will cause your movie to sell. So why not do a spinoff with him? Like, again, why are they talking a New Gods movie? For what? The New Gods is already, as a concept, is confusing as hell. That's for comic book fans because it's so out there, it's so weird and quirky. You know what I'm saying? Like you can't get your Earthbound regular shit off the ground, and you want to do a New Gods movie? Come on, no, that's not gonna fucking work. I can guarantee you that. And then they're talking about, it's gonna be outside the DCU. Like, no, fuck that. No, stop. Look, if you want to build a universe, what they need to do, like I said, besides having a plan and doing movies about characters, going forward. Let's say, like, if I was in the seat right now, going forward, how I would do to fix it. Do all the things I mentioned before, but I will come out with like some kind of press statement right now and be like, look, we realize that people, the fans aren't happy with our movies. They're not going to say that their movies sucked. They can't do that. So they could just, make some bullshit up in there where they'd be like, we realize that our movies didn't, reach their potential, reach the potential that we wanted them to reach. They're great movies, but they could have been better, do something like that, right? In a press statement. And then explain, be like, we apologize for, our products being not as good. We're working on it. We're making changes to improve things. So for future projects, things will be a little bit better. And that's all you need. Just put that out there. Yeah, some fans, you have to get over the hump of having a bad start. And the easiest way to do that is put out a press statement. All of those DC fanboys will be like, you know what? They're acknowledging the fact that they fucked up. So that gives them hope that it's going to be better. And then in public opinion, as long as you keep making good movies, and not fucked up bad movies, public opinion will sway back in your favor. You don't have to reboot. I mean, if anything, I would soft reboot to explain certain things. Like if Ben Affleck is out, I mean, I'm assuming he is, I would keep him in there because I think he was a good Batman. I think I need to work on his Bruce Wayne. But whether if the studio wanted to keep him or not is one thing. Whether he wanted to do it, that's the biggest one. Because if he don't want to do it, then I mean, obviously they can't make him do it. If anything, I will give him like that Robert Downey Jr. money to keep him on and be like, look, man, we know you don't want to do this, but like, yo, look, here's 50 mil. You know what I'm saying? Shut the fuck up, this fucking movie. I would do something like that because changing the character in your universe is kind of hard to do anyway. And it's one of those things where it's like he's already established as your fucking Batman. So it's like move forward with him, make it better. Don't just quit and start the fuck over. But if he didn't want to do it, fine, soft reboot. That would be my continuing on that. If he was willing to do it, keep it going. But if let's say they had to get a whole nother Batman in there, soft reboot. Easiest way to do that, Flashpoint. It's not hard. It's not hard to plan this shit out. Have Aquaman do him. Have Flash come out because I think that's the next movie after Aquaman if it's still coming out like it's supposed to. Have Flash's movie be Flashpoint. Man, that was a lot of flashes. But have his movie be that. Kind of wrap that up into like, okay, I'm Barry Allen, not Barry Allen, I'm Wally West, have a flashback showing him and Barry. I mean, hell, get what's his name, Grant Gustin from the TV show. You can bring him into the movie, just pay, just kick him out like a meal or something like that. I'm sure he'd want to do it, and I'm sure the people on the TV show, since they seem pretty cool with crossovers and stuff. I mean, because WB doesn't have that problem. For those of you who don't know, Marvel, when it came to all of their characters, like Marvel movies, like the Avengers and stuff, the X-Men, Fantastic Four, other studios had those characters, so they couldn't use anything from them. WB doesn't have that problem because WB owns all of DC movies and the WB television show, so they can use those characters if they wanted to. They just don't want to have story restrictions, and you don't have to. You don't have to use a story, but that's why I said use Wally West, because in Wally West, you don't have to pull in all of that baggage from the television show. You could just be like, oh, well, this is a different universe. It is what it is. And in the television show of The Flash, they do all of that dimension hopping and stuff anyway, right? So you can just have bring in the guy from the television show, have him be Barry Allen, have a flashback of Wally West, or have like a younger Wally West getting his powers, and dress him up as Kid Flash, and have a flashback like, yeah, I used to run with the Flash back in the day. And yeah, and you can have him, and and then when he died, I took over him, and that's why I'm the Flash. And you can kind of have a 2-minute flashback showing that. And then you can, even on the television side, they can have a scene where he's running through something, and having and him having a flash of what Wally West looks like in the movies and everything. So they can kind of make an event out of that kind of sort of thing. And then you can have him jump into Flashpoint of I got these powers. Barry once told me that, if you run fast enough, you can travel back in time. And then you can have Flashpoint be him trying that, and for the first time, and he saves, does something or changes something. I know Flashpoint kind of centered around Barry Allen, not Wally West, but you can have something, make something up. Just say fuck it, just make something up. Have, let's say, somebody, this girl he liked when he was, a kid or something, die or whatever, and let's say he was running to save her and wasn't fast enough or something. Let's say he was running normal speed and was just the normal average guy running, but he couldn't save her. Or let's say do something even different. Let's say if he's the Flash running around and saving people, have let's say something happen. Let's say terrorist attack or something. Have a bomb go off or something where he's running to save somebody and he's not fast enough. And then a group of people die. And then as a hero, that kind of hits you here, because that's the problem Superman always has, where it's I'm Superman, I want to save everybody, but I don't have the power to do that. I'm not fast enough. I'm not going to always be there to save everybody. You can have that eat at the Flash, and then have him be like, what, Barry once told me that, he ran fast enough and went back in time. Let me see if I can do that. And kind of take Barry Allen's Flashpoint story and kind of twist it around a little bit to fit what you want to do. And you can have him go back in time, save those people, and let's say, have everything be fucked up when he came back, just like in the comic book and in the animated movie. And then you could just run with that story if that's what you wanted to do. You know what I'm saying? You can bring in Thomas Wayne, Batman with guns. You can have, bring in Jason Momoa as Aquaman and Gal Gadot as Wonder Woman fighting each other, Atlantis versus Themyscira. You can have Cyborg being the one guy working with the government. You can bring in everybody from your Justice League, and then in that movie, if you wanted to, you can bring in Man of Steel. I mean, I don't know how, not Man of Steel. You can bring in Superman. Him, you would have to do differently, but because I know the Superman in Flashpoint was kind of never exposed to the sun. So he was always withered and kind of looked starving. And I don't know if Henry Cavill can, is willing to do that for the role, but knock him down a peg a different kind of way, honestly. And you can have that be your movie, and you can have Flash be like, oh man, the world's messed up, let me change it back. And then when you change it back, you have a different Batman. Let's say have him go and check on everybody at the end to make sure that they are who they're supposed to be, right? And he can get the Superman, and Superman's fine. You can get the Wonder Woman, she's fine. Go to Aquaman, give him blonde hair or something, make him look a little bit different, because I don't like the way he look, and I'm the one making these decisions. But you can have him look a little bit different, look a little bit more comic book accurate, but have him be the same person. He can be Jason Momoa if he wants. And but then when you get the Batman, have him go to the cave, and let's say You can have Alfred be different too if you want Alfred to be different, or you can just straight up just, you know, have him go to the cave and be like, oh, everybody's the same, I think it's cool. And then you end on a scene of him meeting Batman, and Batman's a completely different actor. And then you could be, you know, he could be like, oh shit, you know, do it like that. And then that's how you get your new Batman going forward in your movies. Like I said, it's not hard. I mean, granted, they would have to get over the hurdle of bad public opinion, you know, but once you put out a couple good movies and people realize you're moving in the right direction, it's fine. That's all you got to do. And you just got to keep the momentum going. I mean, yeah, Marvel's going to have you beat as far as overall quality, as far as like how a movie looks and the spectacle and the quantity of movies that they come out with, because the WB just can't compete with that. I mean, it is what it is. But don't worry about what they do. Let them do them. And then you focus on, you know, what you do. If you put out 2 movies a year or 1 movie a year, then have that as just establish your universe. People aren't going to look at WB's movies and then look at Marvel and be like, well, Marvel got more movies than them. Like, no, they're not going to give a shit because they realize it's separate. It's not like the WB is a part of Marvel's slate of movies. You know what I'm saying? You don't have to catch up to Marvel. If anything, Marvel has to raise the caliber of their heroes up to the standard of Batman and Superman. I mean, that's all you got to do. If you put out good movies, your movies will outsell Marvel's over time, just because you got the bigger heroes. I mean, granted, the only reason Marvel is as big as it is now is because of they put that time and effort into building their universe, and it's been like that for like going on 10 years now. So they're established, as they say. You know, people are invested in the characters. They've watched the characters grow from movie to movie with personal character story arcs and all of that good stuff. You can do the same thing, if not more, with your heroes. People always say that DC movies are hard to write for because their characters are godlike and Marvel's aren't. I say bull fucking shit. It's not hard to write, you know, your movies. The comic books do it every day. I mean, hell, look at what they're doing with DC Rebirth right now. They're killing it right now. Marvel fucking it up. You know? So, I mean, it's not hard. It's just you have to write. You have to basically make character pieces. That's all you have to do. Your whole movie has to be designed to get your character from point A to point B. And you have to have a story that facilitates that, you know, with a bad guy and, you know, moments and things like that. Like with DC Rebirth, right? One thing that they did now with Superman, because people always say Superman's hard to write for because he's this guy who's invulnerable, you know, it's hard to show character struggle with him based on his power set. But what they did with DC Rebirth, guess what? They made him a fucking dad. So now not only is he Superman, but he has a son who also has his powers that he has to raise, not only to be a good man, but to be somebody that can take his place, that could be the next Superman. And that's a struggle by itself, because like everybody who has kids can relate to that. So you realize parenting is in there, and teaching somebody else to be a good person. A lot of other people can relate to that, because everybody knows at least one person that's like the fuck up in their life, and they want to see them do good, and they try to always give advice to them, and whether they take it or not, they don't. They do. They do. They don't. They don't. And it's like, just make grounded kind of stories based with this hero. I mean, just don't base it around physical combat where it's like, oh, is Superman gonna beat this bad guy because he has this kryptonite gun? Like, no, just base it around something else. Have that be in there, but base your overarching story as, you know, something else. Let's say like do a Superman movie where the struggle is not, let's say, have him beating the bad guy or beating whatever the threat is. Have that be like half of it, but then you have the other half, have him wondering like, well, should I do that? Like, is that the greater good for the movie or for the planet or for Earth and people? Like, should I go over there and save those people, or should I do that, or should I not do that? Or let's say have him put him in a Captain America moment, like just like a Civil War. That's why I say he should be the Captain America of DC. Put him in a moment, like, you know, he's had several in the comic books, where have him go against what the government and the people want him to do. Let's say if they was like, look, we don't want you to save people, stop doing that bullshit. And then you have him be like, but it's the right thing to do though. I feel like I have to do this thing. And then it becomes like a social movie where it's like he feels as though he has to go out there and do that to save people, but people don't want him to do that, and you can have that be like the bigger character piece of your movie, and then, you know, have him fight a bad guy or something. I don't know, do something with that. But I mean, like I said, YouTube, it's not hard. I mean it really isn't. If they did those things, like I said, in the short term, they wouldn't be making millions of dollars, but that would set them up for the long term of making movies down the road that can, you know, that they can make millions and millions of dollars with. And then probably in 5, 6, 8, 10 years, they will be what Marvel is right now. I mean, it is what it is. Like I said, it's not hard. They just got to plan it out. Have your characters be one specific way, plan the shit out, have them go and do it, and don't meddle with your final product. I mean, and don't mandate your movies to be under like 2 hours to get more movies in there, to, you know, for bonuses. Don't do that fuckery. You know, I mean, just let your movies, you know, give the movies the time they need to tell the stories that they want to tell. I mean, it is what it is. Like I said, their biggest hurdle is casting. I mean, that's their biggest hurdle right now, because if they do like a hard reboot, then they would have to change all new actors, because you got to sign them to whole new contracts, all of that stuff. And who knows if they are going to be, they may want to do a movie like Wonder Woman may want to do Wonder Woman 3 or whatever, but if she's doing other movies, then she's not going to be able to do it, and then you got to get somebody else to be your Wonder Woman. So it's like, if you plan stuff out, and, you know, just like anything in life, if you plan shit out beforehand, you know, have like that one plan you do, and then have like a backup plan just in case, where, let's say, if certain characters drop out, like kind of like how Marvel, what they did with Spider-Man. They had Civil War without Spider-Man, and then they was like, well, if we do get Spider-Man, let's just throw this in here just in case. You know what I'm saying? Do something like that. That way, in case, if, let's say, one of the actors, you know, God forbid, let's say, if they die or whatever during the movie, or before they can make another one, have a plan where you can change that out, or change out that character, or change something that's not set in stone, so you can change it going forward. That way it doesn't mess up with your plan going forward. You know, like I said, YouTube is not hard. I mean, it really isn't. I mean, I guess the biggest thing, like I said, besides all of that, is just they need to get their heads out of their ass. You know, that's it. But anyways, guys, let me know what you thought of what I said here today, and if you know, have any disagreements with what I said, or how I think, you know, they should fix things, let me know down in the comments. Maybe we can have a discussion. I don't mind that at all. So, but anyways, guys, my name is Denonu, the man with the biggest and the most blackest privilege on YouTube, and I will see you guys in the next one.